Batman is on equal terms now with Ducard. I think we feel that they are equal to each other. It was punch for punch, kick for kick, and that's what made it very intense and dynamic.
Liam and Christian were keen to be involved, to rehearse. In fact, you know, if they weren't doing anything, they'd actually call and say, look, you know, why don't we rehearse?
Action!
We just wanted it to be as hard as possible. We wanted to show two men who are very highly trained and very highly skilled, very motivated.
Got it there. Right, sweetie. You guys all right? Yes. Cut.
The KFM, the KC work on screen.
15 years ago today, a special film was made. A special, little tiny film known as Batman Begins, which begun the Dark Knight trilogy, aka the best movie trilogy of all time, or at least my personal favorite. These films are some of my favorites. I adore them. The Dark Knight and Batman Begins are not only my two favorite comic book films of all time, but they're also my two favorite films of all time. It's hard to talk about your favorite films of all time. Hard to talk about how much they mean to you and why they mean that to you. Now last year, a YouTube channel known as High Top Films made a video series on the Raimi Spider-Man films and discussing how much they mean to him. Spider-Man 2 is his favorite film of all time. You know, he loved Spider-Man 1, and he even liked Spider-Man 3. That is, I'm guessing, his favorite trilogy of all time. I can only assume that. And he loves those, and those videos were great. In fact, I think they're the best on his channel. And these have inspired me to discuss my thoughts on the Nolan films, which I pretty much feel the same about. The Nolan films, to me, is what the Raimi films were to High Top Films, and still are. So essentially, I'm copying High Top because I lack originality and I'm too lazy. However, something different I am going to be doing is I'm going to be uploading these videos on the days that the films originally came out. So for example, at the time you're watching this, or at least at the time this is uploaded, it is June 15th, 2020. The Dark Knight, my video on The Dark Knight will be uploaded on July 18th, 2020, and July 20th, 2020 is when I will be uploading my video on The Dark Knight Rises. Alright, now let's finally begin. I think in order to understand why this movie is truly so great, we need to understand the time period that it came out. So the time this film came out was 2005, and that was after Batman had been ruined by Joel Schumacher in Batman and Robin. Meaning Batman had basically been destroyed in the eyes of the general audience. However, one man, one hero came around to save this franchise, and that man was Christopher Nolan. I love Christopher Nolan. He's my favorite film director of all time. I mean, I've never seen a bad film from this man. He is such a good director. Fun fact, did you know he directed his first short at the age of 7? I mean, I made my first short at like the age of 11, but he did it at like 7. Do you know how insane that is? 7 years old. His directorial debut was the following, 1998, which led him to Memento, which led him to this amazing film. Nolan was given an impossible task to revitalize the character of Batman. Like I said earlier, he was basically destroyed by Joel Schumacher. And you know what? This madman succeeded. And you know why he succeeded? I'll tell you the reason he succeeded, because unlike, say, Zack Snyder, Nolan is all about character first. He makes character-driven stories. He cares way more about getting the characters right rather than the visuals. Snyder is all about the visuals, while Nolan is all about the character. Nolan understands that if you get the character wrong, the whole movie falls apart. Man of Steel doesn't work for a number of reasons, and the biggest one is the characters in that film. The only fleshed out one seems to be Zod. The rest are just kinda meh. I'm still trying to figure out what Clark's character was. It's kinda hard. And that brings me to my first major point. The characters. Nolan takes his time developing every character, every side character, every antagonist, every protagonist. Well, I guess there's only one protagonist and a couple antagonists, but you guys get the point, right? Let's start with a simple one, Batman. Let me just start out by saying this. Christian Bale is absolutely perfect in the role as Batman. His voice in this film is fine. I actually really like the voice in this movie. I mean, it's not Michael Keaton level voice. I mean, I think it's still pretty good. It's definitely at his best in this film, even though I think Batman's at his best in The Dark Knight Rises. It's pretty good. I actually really like it in this film. It's not that big of a deal. And you know why it's not that big of a deal? Because the character himself is incredible. This is by far the most comic book accurate Batman in live action to date, besides David Mazouz. Sure, Batfleck has a comic book accurate suit. Okay, that's cool. Sure, Batfleck has a cool voice. That's nice. But what about his character? Why does he kill people? I don't know. Why? Why did you make him kill people? I don't understand. Batman does not kill. Now let's talk about that for a second. Now listen, I understand that in Batman's first run, he killed people. Really, I do. Like, I get it. Here's the thing though, characters evolve over time. The first Batman we got was basically Bob Kane's version of the Shadow, and nothing more. However, Bill Finger came around and basically inserted the no-killing rule into Batman. He basically made what most of us know to be Batman. As I said, characters evolve over time. People don't remember Batman for him killing. People remember Batman for having a no-killing rule, for having a moral dilemma. That makes him interesting. If Batman kills, he's not interesting. Yes, some comic book heroes kill, but not all of them. Batman's one of those characters. If I want to see a comic book hero kill, I'll go watch a Punisher movie, or the even better Punisher TV show, or a Wolverine movie. Those characters kill, but characters like Batman, Superman, or Spider-Man, they're known for not killing. Most people's favorite superheroes are either Batman, Superman, or Spider-Man. The reason for that, in my opinion, is they're the most relatable. They have relatable problems, and along with that, they don't kill. Plus, if we're basing this stuff off their first year in the comics, shouldn't Superman be a villain? Yeah, as hard as it may be to believe, Superman was a villain in his first comic. Now, I see a lot of people saying that Batman doesn't have a killing role in these movies, and that he kills all the time, but he doesn't. He does have a no-killing rule. A scene that a lot of people point to in this film is the scene where Bruce chooses not to execute the murderer and blows up the League of Shadows house. But we only see one person explicitly die, and it's the fake Ra's al Ghul. Along with that, the reason Bruce does this is because he doesn't want to kill this murderer. He believes that he should not be an executioner. All we see are a couple ninjas being blasted around. That's it. Bruce doesn't go out of his way to go up to them and throw them in fire, or throw them out of the window or anything. He sets the place on fire to cause a distraction. Along with that, he saves Ra's al Ghul, the real one. Speaking of which, hey Man of Steel Superman, this version of Batman's already saving someone, and he's not even Batman yet. You should probably take some notes. And that's another thing, Batman's not just a crime fighter, he saves people, he's a hero, and I feel like that's an aspect of the character that often these days people miss. Now I know people are going to point out that he basically let Ra's al Ghul die, so I'm just going to give my intake on that real quick. Now, I personally would have preferred Bruce not to kill Ra's, but I do still think it works in this film. The reason is there's a massive difference between what Christian Bale did compared to what Batfleck did. You see, I believe Batman can kill at some point, but it must have some things. Number 1, it must feel earned. Number 2, it must be properly motivated. Number 3, it must serve a storytelling purpose. Ra's death felt earned, and while I wish Bruce wouldn't have killed him personally, it felt earned, it was properly motivated, and it serves a storytelling purpose, so I personally don't really mind it. In BVS, it does not serve a storytelling purpose, it is not earned, and it's not properly motivated. Oh, and before someone mentions The Dark Knight Returns, Batman didn't kill a single person in that comic. I'm not sure why Zack Snyder said that, but he didn't, so don't say it. Nolan understands that if Batman kills, he's no better than the criminals he fights. He understands how important Batman's no-killing rule is.
Compassion is a weakness your enemies will not share.
That's why it's so important. It separates us from them.
This man is a murderer.
This man should be tried.
By whom? Corrupt bureaucrats?
I will go back to Gotham and I will fight men like this, but I will not become an executioner.
If Batman kills like he did in BVS or Batman 89, well then there is no moral conflict. He's no longer interesting. If you want a comic book movie where the hero kills, then please, go watch a Wolverine movie, or a Punisher movie. Those work. Now something this film does that most Batman films haven't is focus very heavily on the psyche of Batman, more than it is given credit for.
It was my fault. I made the deed.
It was nothing that you did. It was him. And him alone. Do you understand?
Listen to the score by my boy Hans Zimmer. The way it's acted, the music, the set, it's all so good.
Responsible for your parents' death.
My anger outweighs my guilt.
This film is first and foremost a Bruce Wayne film. And in live action, we hadn't really gotten that, at least one that was good. I mean, Batman Forever attempted it, but it didn't exactly work out, did it? And that's one of the main things I love about this trilogy. It is very much Bruce Wayne focused. It's all about the development of Bruce Wayne. It's not focused on setting up other universes that don't even turn out to be good. It's just focused on being great films, having great arcs for Bruce Wayne, and it's why it's so good. All three of these films develop him in some way, shape, or form. How he rose to become Batman, and how he retired and passed it on to a new generation. Another thing I think is great about these films is that they're very much self-contained, and they're not in a discount MCU or anything like that. I actually prefer Batman when he's in his own self-contained universe. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the Justice League and all that, they're great, but I actually prefer him when he's in his own self-contained universe. My favorite Batman stories are the self-contained ones. This trilogy, especially this film, also showcases Bruce Wayne's true mask in the best way in live action besides Gotham, in my opinion. He makes it very clear who he is. You see the real Bruce Wayne, and there's also the Bruce Wayne that he pretends to be when he's talking to the Wayne Foundation or when he's at parties and whatnot.
Enterprises, Mr. Earl, I'm sure they'll call back.
That is the real mask. The mask is Bruce Wayne, as Rachel says at the end of the film.
No, this is your mask. Your real face is the one that criminals now fear.
David Mazouz from Gotham and Christian Bale from Caine, but he barely had any character. Val Kilmer attempted, but didn't exactly succeed because of Joel Schumacher and how much he cut from the film. Batman Robin is better left unmentioned. And Batfleck honestly acts the same in a lot of scenes. He doesn't really seem that different to me. Bruce, though, he acts completely differently around people, and inside his house, he acts completely differently. Because, well, that's when he's Batman. So I don't really get how Batfleck got that. Now, I made an entire video on why I thought Christian Bale was the best Batman, so if you want to know my full thoughts on him, go over to that video and watch it. I think it still kind of holds up, but there's definitely room for improvement on that video. Now let's talk about the antagonists. Now, in my opinion, Scarecrow is the most comic book accurate villain in these movies. He's actually pretty spot on. He's great, man. He's fantastic. Personally, I wish they would have used him a bit more, but he's still pretty great in these movies.
You need to lighten up.
Always mind your surroundings.
Ra's al Ghul is quite possibly one of the most underrated characters in cinematic history. He's definitely the most underrated character in this trilogy. This Ra's is a perfect example of what an adaptation should be. An adaptation should be you adapting the core of that character and adding your own spin on it, your own originality to it. Nolan takes what makes Ra's al Ghul interesting in the core and heart of him in the comics and adds his own originality to it. Same with Joker, but we'll talk about him on July 18th. In this film, Ra's serves as a dark mirror to Bruce. He has the same goals as Bruce, and even similar motives. Both of these characters are motivated by loss and pain.
Possible anger strangling the grief until the memory of your loved one is just poison in your veins. I wasn't always here in the mountains. Once I had a wife. She was taken from me.
What separates them is how they go about them.
Only a cynical man would call what these people have lives, Wayne. Crime, despair. This is not how man was supposed to live.
Gotham isn't beyond saving. There are good people here.
Ra's is used to tell us that Batman does not kill because he believes in redemption and that it's not their decision to kill these criminals, while Ra's sees no redemption in these lunatics and just believes they need to die, which is why he wants to destroy Gotham. Ra's is used to tell us that Bruce would have ended up just like Ra's had he killed Joe Chill that day.
It's your parents. Guns down by one of the very people they were trying to help. If someone stands in the way of true justice, you simply walk up behind them, stab them in the heart.
Now, a character that gets constantly hated on in these movies is Rachel Dawes. And to be fair, I think they could have done her a bit better too. And in this film, she's not as complex as the other characters. She's a lot better in The Dark Knight. However, I personally would never say she is a bad character in any of these movies. In this film, she's very, very, very simple. Very not complex and very simple. That's the best way to describe her in this movie. Simple. She's a kinda traditional love interest. I don't mind her in this film. I think the main reason is I understand what they were going for, and I think they actually succeeded pretty well. They just needed to go a bit more in depth into it. In this film, I'm not really sure if I'd say she has an arc, but her role is very much to represent what Bruce's parents represented. She stands for the same ideals that his parents did. I think that's part of the reason why she was the one to tell Bruce that there's a difference between revenge and justice.
The day that Chill died, I did terrible things.
True things. I was a coward with a gun. Justice is about more than revenge.
Also, Lucius Fox, who helps Bruce get some of his weapons, was awesome. He's amazing in all these movies. I mean, Morgan Freeman. I mean, how could you not love Morgan Freeman, right? Also, Michael Caine Alfred is phenomenal. He, in my opinion, is the second best Alfred ever. I mean, the only person that tops him, I think, is Sean Pertwee from Gotham. And it was by a landslide. I really love them both a lot. It's like choosing between your own parents. You just love them both. I mean, how could you not love scenes like this?
It was my fault, Alfred. I made you need to. If I hadn't gotten scared.
It was nothing that you did. It was him and him alone.
I miss him, Alfred. I miss him so much.
So do I, Master. So do I. Why do we falls? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
Still haven't given up on me.
Never.
Like I said before, Nolan is very much all about character. Character moment like these destroy like most of the moments in the DCEU. Character moments like these are just incredible. When I think of Batman Begins, I think of that scene. I think of the scene where Bruce confronts Ra's. I don't think of all the action-y scenes. Those don't really matter. The characters is what matter. And that brings me to my next point. The filmmaking. Let me just say, the filmmaking display on this film is incredible. From the lighting, to the cinematography, to the plot, to the complex characters. This isn't some bland MCU movie. This is a stylistic Christopher Nolan film.
Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Holy crap, I never knew how crazy practical these movies were until doing research for this video. I mean, they actually lit Batman on fire. Christopher Nolan likes to avoid CGI and really loves practical effects, and I heavily respect him for that. Again, these aren't styleless, bland MCU movies with little to no direction. They're Christopher Nolan films. This very much feels like a director's vision. It feels like a Christopher Nolan film. I seriously just recommend you go see the Batman Begins behind the scenes. I mean, they're so fascinating to watch. I also really love the Batsuit in this movie and the way it was made.
And they're trimmed very patiently by our wonderful girls in art trimming. It has to appear as if it's cut by laser and not by hand. It's not the most comfortable thing to wear. I mean, it is foam latex, it's hot. But on the first day shooting, Christian managed to wear it all day, including the cowl and the gloves.
When he's confronting an individual that he wants to take down, he kind of ceases to be human.
There's naturally, after 6 months of filming, a kind of a love-hate relationship with the thing. Because you get headaches in that thing, you know? And I kind of say to myself, use it. You know, the guy's meant to be kind of fierce. When you get a headache, you feel fierce anyway. You know, you got no time for anybody. You're impatient. So I just said to myself, use it, you know? And I just put up with it, you know? This is a hell of an honor, really, getting to wear this.
From the beginning, my interest was in taking on a superhero story, but treating it in a realistic fashion. I've always been a big fan of the character, but I am by no means any kind of comic book expert. I felt I needed a writer on the project who really knew the character inside out, really knew the comic world.
That right there is another reason why these movies work so well. Chris Nolan has a very clear understanding of Batman. Sure, he's not a comic book fanboy like me, but he still has a clear understanding of how Batman operates, and that's what makes these movies work. Well, it's one of the things that makes these movies work. There's a bunch of things that make them work, but you get what I mean. And I know I've said it a million times, but the practical effects and stunt work is incredible in these films. Practical effects, how I missed you. Could you please come back into modern day superhero movies? I really need you, please, come on. The practical effects Nolan used for this trilogy is just absolutely amazing. This film is also paced exceptionally well. Things don't happen too slow or too fast, it's just at the right speed. Within the first 5 minutes, we meet the antagonist and the protagonist, and get all the exposition dumps about how Bruce has been doing this for years out of the way. Within the first 8 minutes, we know what Bruce Wayne's goals are. We know what he wants.
Caesar means to fight injustice, to turn fear against those who prey on the fearful.
Within the first 16 minutes of the film, we know Bruce Wayne's motivations. That obviously being Bruce's parents' death. Within the first 20 minutes of the film, we know a little bit about Ra's al Ghul, and we learn that he also lost someone close to him. Within the first 20 minutes, we realize Ra's believes killing is justice. Within the first 20 minutes, we see how Bruce trains to become the Batman and who trains him, Ra's al Ghul. Everything is so perfectly paced. The cinematography is stunning. The lighting is beautiful. The action sequences are okay. I actually think the first action sequence with Batman and Falcone works because we were seeing things from the criminals' perspectives, therefore things would occur like that. But the rest of them, I don't really get why they were quick shots, because the rest of them are from Bruce Wayne's perspective, so I don't know why they're these quick shots when it's all from Bruce Wayne's perspective. Maybe that's just me though. Personally, I don't hate the action, I just think it's a bit odd and it could have been done better. I also love the screenplay. The screenplay, in my opinion, is pretty close to perfection. Yes, it isn't super simple like the original Batman '89 movie or the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, but it's not too overly complicated either. It's just a story about how Bruce Wayne became Batman, and him stopping the villains. Yes, unbeknownst to him, the villains are all trying to destroy Gotham, but that's more of a twist. It doesn't really make it too overly complicated, in my opinion. Also, I forgot to talk about him earlier, but Jim Gordon, played by Gary Oldman, is great. I think he's better than the next two films, but he's still pretty great here. In the end, Batman Begins is a phenomenal movie, a phenomenal piece of cinema. I long for the days where films would actually feel like directions of a director rather than just a fun superhero film. I long for the days where superhero films actually looked good. I long for the days where we got to see Batman save people. I long for the days when we got superhero origin films like this. And I really long for the days where superhero films had practical effects. In my opinion, this film is about as close to perfection as you could possibly get with a film. And you know what's insane besides me ripping off high-top films? When I was a little kid, I always thought nothing would beat Batman Begins. Nothing would ever top it. And then this madman made the next Batman film, only he made it better.